Welcome into episode 516 of the Skate Podcast. I am Brian DeFelice, joined by Bridget Prue and Scott McLaughlin. Bridget and Scott, the Boston Bruins got off to a pivotal 5-game road trip with a 4-1 loss to the Buffalo Sabres. The Bruins have now lost 5 games in a row, 6 of their last 7. 5 of those 6 losses have been multi-goal defeats. Now, I don't know about you two. That loss in Buffalo wasn't just a loss on the scoreboard, but the process was all effed up too. They did not play a good game at all.
No, they didn't. They were, I would say, okay for stretches of the first period. I'm just gonna go right into my opening shit because this kind of all ties together. And I gotta say, I don't love some of the things I've been hearing from the Bruins and Marco Sturm, and part of it relates to that first period because after the game, Sturm and players were talking like they played a great first period, and then it just got away for them for like a 6 or 7 minute stretch in the second period, which on the score sheet, I could see how you could come to that conclusion because they were up 1-0 after 1. And then they give up 3 goals in the first 8 minutes of the second in a, call it was a 6-minute, 15-second stretch. So sure, you could try to spin it as like, well, we just had that one bad stretch and couldn't overcome it. But that's not how that game actually felt. Like I said, in my mind, they were okay in the first period. I did not think that was a great period by any means. They got outshot. They spent a lot of time in their own zone. But okay, you have a 1-0 lead. Then this idea that, oh, it was just a bad start to the second period. No, the entire second period was a disaster. They were terrible the entire period. It's not like they bounced back after giving up those 3 goals. They got outshot 13-2 in the second period. They were getting outshot 26-11 through 40 minutes. It was way more than just like one bad stretch of hockey. And so I don't know if like they're just trying to convince themselves that it wasn't as bad as it was. And maybe you kind of have to do that. But it's kind of starting to pile up here where there's been just the tone that I don't love. And even Marco Sturm before the game. So here's the thing. Saturday was a tough day for them. Because of the league mandated 3-day break, you can't fly out the day before the game. So you have to fly out on Saturday morning. They were planning to have a morning skate once they landed there. Their flight got delayed because of weather. They got in late. They scrapped the morning skate. They just had like a little quick team meeting and workout instead. So yeah, that all sucks. Like I'm not telling you it doesn't, but Marco Sturm in his pregame media availability is telling reporters about how tough Saturday night's going to be. And he says at one point, like, I just hope we don't get any injuries in this game because we haven't skated in 4 days. And I'm sure his tone in the locker room was different and in the meeting was maybe different, but I don't really want to hear that. Like, this is a huge game that you have to win. Everything you said after Tuesday's loss to Montreal was all about mental fatigue and this break's going to be good for us. Well, then you get out of break and it kind of just sounds like you're hearing more excuses about, well, that's why we didn't win Saturday night. And it's like, well, what's it going to be if you don't win in Calgary Monday night? What if you don't win in Edmonton on Wednesday? Like, are we just going to keep hearing? Like, at some point, either you get yourself out of this or you're just a bad team and this season is going to go really south really quickly.
So stemming on that, Scott, are they a bad team? The numbers would tell you that they have been a bad team all along, and they've been covering it up with good goaltending and strong special teams mostly. And right now it just seems like the rubber is meeting the road, and it's, the chariot is starting to turn back into a pumpkin a bit. And the reason I say that is because if you look at their underlying numbers heading into the Buffalo game, the Bruins led the NHL in high danger scoring chances and medium danger scoring chances combined with 383. Okay, so they've been giving up the most high and medium scoring chances in the league, and they were third in both respective categories, but combined they were first. They were also the most penalized team. They've accumulated the most penalty minutes prior to the Buffalo game in the league, and they had the most penalty minutes per 60 in the league. So clearly, those two elements feed each other, right? I imagine that there's a 5-on-5 metric that shows their scoring chances for and against that could better illustrate them at 5-on-5, but clearly the lack of discipline on this team, the penalties that they take, which is a combination of chasing the play because they lack speed and skill, and just mental mistakes, mental errors. When you're shorthanded that many times, you're going to give up those high danger and medium danger scoring chances. So that makes sense. But what's the excuse for it? There is none. I think it's just a matter of they just lack speed and skill compared to most teams, and they were able to get some wins, string some wins together for the most part to this point because they've benefited from confidence, some swagger, and for much of the first 2 months of the year, top 10 penalty kill, power play units, and good goaltending for the most part from Swayman. Well, when those categories start to fade, you start to see who you really are. And right now, they're about to go on a Western Canadian road trip that finishes in obviously northwestern U.S. in Seattle, but it's not looking good. This is where their season to me is on the line. I've been saying that last road stand or homestand was imperative. Hated the way that they played the game against Ottawa and Montreal. Didn't like the way it was coached against Vancouver. It's just everything's starting to snowball, and that tends to happen for when a team lacks, the speed and skill required. Teams with speed and skill don't have as much of a margin for. They have a bigger margin for error. The Bruins don't have that, and you're starting to see it come to fruition.
Yeah, no, and Brian, like, there's definitely a lot more to get into with the trends during the losing streak. And yeah, goaltending is something we should definitely get back to as well. And the penalties, which feels like the penalties have been a major topic for the last 3-4 episodes. Because it just continues to kind of be a glaring problem. And the numbers are really high. So, but
yeah, but I mean, the penalties weren't even it's just specifically to the Buffalo game. Like they weren't a huge factor. I mean, it affected your potential comeback ability because it took time off the clock because you had to kill a few down the stretch. But like, they got their teeth kicked in at 5-on-5. Like the Sabres just completely dominated at 5-on-5 in that game, which is honestly like even more concerning to me. Is like you can't come out of that game and feel any other way than the Buffalo Sabres right now at this exact moment are a much better team than you. And they've won 8 games in a row.
Well, and Bridget, I apologize for postponing your opening shift another 10 seconds, but the best way I can describe that Buffalo game, and my opening shift was more general to the team, but specifically to the Buffalo game, which we'll get into. The simplest way I can describe it is they play like a bunch of assholes, and that's what I would classify a team as when they can't even string together multiple passes or a single pass. Like when you're not connecting on basic passes through the neutral zone and defensive zone, it's like you're playing like a bunch of assholes. I'm sorry, but like you can't tell me that the team's not capable of doing that, right? We've seen that. Their whole mojo is just off right now. I think they're starting to feel bad for themselves. There's only so many times you can call something a must win and not come through. I mean, they were talking before Montreal like they were going into Game 7 of the Stanley Cup. It's a must win. We have to win this game, and you lose 6-2. And then you go home for Christmas, right? And you have a huge game to start the road trip. If you care about your season, fans, we can be pessimistic all we want. Fans online, people out in the streets, they can sit there and say, well, they weren't good enough anyway. The team can't be telling themselves that. Do you guys want to make the playoffs? Right? Do you guys think you're a playoff team? Charlie McAvoy thinks so. He said it before the season. Elliot Friedman, we're a playoff team every day in my mind. So do you guys think that? Do you want to make the playoffs? Then you can't show up against Buffalo, regardless of the travel issues, to start a season-altering, road trip and throw out a dud like that. They didn't show up until the final 5 minutes of that game. Let's call it for what it is. but we will get into that. I'm sorry, Bridget. Scott got me going. I know you have an opening shift to get to.
I do, and it luckily for everyone is about something besides that Buffalo game. So Will Zellers is the leading goal scorer in World Juniors right now. And because of the holiday, we haven't recorded since Christmas Eve. So at that point in time, they hadn't played yet. And we were talking about, it looks like Will Zellers should make the team because Trevor Connolly got injured and he was trending towards making the team kind of already, but that kind of sealed that he was going to make it. And then I think actually at the very end of the podcast, he officially made it. So, now it's about, what do these Bruins guys do in the tournament? And Will Zellers has been phenomenal. He has been their best player so far, really. And Hagen's also there, obviously. So it's been fun to watch those guys. Zellers in particular, I don't know how many people besides maybe the people following the Bruins prospects really knew that much about him, but obviously, like, we talked to him on this podcast in the off season after he got acquired, and so he's got 3 goals, an assist, 4 points on the tournament, which is the most goals, tied for most goals, and second most third most in points. So he's looked good. He's passed the eye test. He had a really sick goal in his last game. And the U.S. is 2 games in to the tournament so far. And they play again today at 6. So I don't know. I've been enjoying World Juniors. It was scary when Cole Hudson got hurt last game. Took a puck looked like right underneath his helmet on the back of his neck, maybe, or maybe even just like the lower part of his head on the back. And it took a while for him to get up, ended up getting stretchered, going to the hospital, but came back before the end of the game. There was reporting that it was just a quick trip to the hospital and he was back to the locker room by the end of the game and saw the team after the game. So, and he's listed as day-to-day. So I'm not sure he's going to play in tonight's game, but it was just good to see him, be okay, because anything that's a neck or head injury, and we saw what a puck to the face did to Charlie McAvoy, and this is, a puck to the head, other side of the head, but and then his teammate Cole Iserman, they're both from BU. I'm sure people already know that, I don't have to say it, but that picture of him like grabbing his hand was like, it just reminds you, like, it's dangerous, and these guys are they're good people. Like, it was cute to see Iserman trying to make sure he was okay. And his quote was like, once I felt him squeeze my hand, I could breathe again, or something like that. So those guys are teammates at BU, and Hudson's just a great player. So if you're rooting for the US, you want to see him be healthy and in the lineup, because he led the whole tournament last year in points, and he's going to be important if you want to win the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned like Zellers obviously having a case as the US's best player so far. Cole Hudson would be another one who, like, every time he's on the ice, it just seems like the ice is tilted downhill for the US. I think Hagens has played really well, even though he's not quite racking up the points. Doesn't have a goal yet, has 2 assists in 2 games. But he's been creating chances, and again, I think the US has had a lot of offensive zone time when he's been on the ice. It's been a really interesting tournament so far, because like, you would have thought, you look at the US schedule and it's like, oh, they kind of get to ease into it. That Germany game was closer than, final score is 6-3, but that was a close game for a while. Switzerland, they beat 2-1. Canada, who, again, I said, and I wasn't the only one, like, this is one of the most talented World Junior teams on paper we've ever seen. They've barely been squeaking by. Like, they have not looked great. That was an awesome game against the Czech Republic that they end up winning 7-5. And then they need overtime to beat Latvia 2-1. So, Brian had to duck out just for a second. But Yeah, like some kind of surprising results. Like Sweden hasn't really been dominating yet. They squeaked by Slovakia. They also had a tough game against Switzerland. The only real blowout was Finland, who they got Latvia, less than 24 hours after Latvia went all out taking Canada overtime, and Finland ends up beating them 8-0. I think Latvia just ran out of fumes. But yeah, it's been a good tournament. It's been, I would say, more interesting and competitive than I might have guessed.
Yeah, and so tonight it's USA, Slovakia, like I said, at 6, and then tomorrow, no, not tomorrow. They have tomorrow off. And then New Year's Eve is Sweden, and then that's the end of the group stage. So for them, it's just, I mean, we're rooting for the US, but like at the same time, it's more for us about watching the prospects for the Bruins. And also, I know this is something Brian wanted to say. If the Bruins keep going the way that they've been going, we're going to be talking more about these guys and the prospects and the draft. And hi, Brian. Because right as of right now, it's more for our entertainment. We didn't have hockey for a few days, so we were watching the tournament. But like at some point, if the Bruins seem to be falling out of a playoff spot and more towards where they were last season, we're talking about them bringing up to this next round of guys, talking about maybe who they could draft, maybe some of these guys. So yeah, it could end up being a second half focused on prospects again.
And I apologize if you guys can hear a fan in the background. Hopefully it's not too loud and it'll go away shortly. But so yeah,
I don't hear anything. So
oh good. Well, it just turned off as well. So that's good. Did either of you, when I stepped away for a second, happen to mention that the Zeller's goals, 2 of them being game-winning goals?
No.
Yeah. I mean, like, he is making an impact, right?
Yeah.
In that tournament. So Higgins has been a little quiet, all things considered, through 2 games. He's had some moments. He has an assist, but I mean, Zeller's in a limited 4th line and second power play role has made the greatest impact, I think, offensively so far for that team. So I'm curious if he can get some more ice time going forward. But and especially, Bridget, you mentioned the Cole Hudson injury. That was a very vulnerable time for the U.S. in the second period against the Swiss, where you're up 1-0 in the game. Cole Hudson goes down, scary injury. The human element takes over. It's your friend that's hurt. You're worried about him, concerned for him outside, beyond the game. And then the Swiss tie the game, right? So things are going against the U.S. on the ice. And then Will Zellers, it makes it 2-1 with just a smart. He's a sharpshooter. He just is. He's one of those players who there's never a bad time to put it on net, and he also has a really good shot too. So sometimes a player, it's like, well, I'll put it on net because that's what you're supposed to do, but they don't have a great shot. When you have that mindset and that shooting ability, that's when you're really dangerous. So he gets what eventually is the game-winning goal and just helps change momentum for that U.S. team in that game. So he's showing in a limited role so far that he is a game breaker, can be a game breaker. He's shown it at every level he's been at so far. USHL Player of the Year last year and Forward of the Year. Right now, I think he's tied for 4th among freshmen in the NCAA in goal scoring. He's 4th on his team at North Dakota in point scoring. So, yeah, it's we're not talking about Will Zellers if you don't have the self-awareness to trade away Charlie Coyle last year, who had a year and a half remaining on his contract, who's no longer in Colorado, by the way. So yeah, you get Middlestat for him, you get a second, but you get Will Zellers. And to your point, Bridget, like, you have to play the games, and we record 3 times a week. So as long as the Bruins are in the playoff hunt, we have to talk about that element of the game in front of us. But if the Bruins have a shit road trip here, they're giving us no choice but to really start talking about this stuff more often. So again, it's in the Bruins' hands if we're going to start talking draft positioning right now as we approach the new year, or if they give us a few more months of, playoff contention. We'll see.
Yeah, and by the way, now I think would be a good time to mention, since you mentioned recording 3 times a week, we are planning on, we're just doing a normal schedule this week, so Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I know, the Bruins schedule is a little weird where they play Monday night and Wednesday night. But that keeps us away from recording on New Year's Day, where we don't really want to be doing that. People aren't going to be listening.
It's gonna be hungover.
If people really need to hear from me on New Year's Day, I will be on WEI with Tom Carroll from 10 to noon.
This is what it was really about.
You can tune in there.
Yeah, we figured that people having some headaches on New Year's Day. I don't know if they want to hear our voices, or at least my voice. I don't know, you guys, your lovely voices maybe, but yeah, and honestly, with these late West Coast games, Western Canada games, I mean, they're starting no earlier than 9, probably later, right? I mean, maybe 9:30 tonight in Calgary.
9 o'clock tonight, 9:30 New Year's Eve in Edmonton.
That'll be fun.
Is that going to be is that going to be over like right at midnight here in the East? And very close to it.
Actually, the ball's gonna drop just as Connor McDavid makes it 6-1.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome to.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna try not to be too pessimistic, but man, it's hard right now. I will say though, like bringing it back to the importance of this road trip, like these should be winnable games. Some of these, Calgary, Vancouver, Seattle, like. I know Calgary's played a little better recently, but that has not been a very good team most of the season. Vancouver had a nice little bump right after the Quinn Hughes trade. They've come back a little. There's shocker, like more seeming dysfunction going on there, including old friend Jake DeBrusk, who's going to be healthy scratched Monday night. Adam Foote said they need more out of him. Jake DeBrusk was then asked about it and said, yeah, I'm pissed and I'm embarrassed and I'm not going to lie. So that seems to be going great. And Seattle's just been like I mean, if they were in the East, I think they'd be one of the worst teams. They're in the middle of the pack in the West just because, the West it's like 6 good teams and then a bunch of crap. Like the West is obviously, it's clearly better than the East at the top, but I would say the middle to bottom part of the West is much weaker than the East. So like, yeah, like you got to get some wins here and you should have opportunities. Like these aren't all Edmonton. Yes. Edmonton looks like a better team than you. The rest of them, they don't look any better than you on paper. So you got to win some of them. And if you don't, then that really is kind of just another mark or another sign that, yeah, this might be coming off the rails pretty quick.
And people probably think the same thing about Buffalo, but obviously they've been playing good hockey. The Bruins catch them when they're hot, right? Like they're now 8 games in a row they've won. But I would say, like, if you had asked me a week ago or so, like, should the Bruins beat Buffalo? I would have said probably. So, like, it would have been on the more winnable side of the games on this road trip, because I think Edmonton is the obvious one that is clearly on paper a really difficult opponent, and you just faced them and it went poorly. I mean, really, you faced a few of these teams recently at home, and now you're going back out to play them on the road, and it's gonna be a different time zone. It's gonna be you have to figure out how to kind of turn the page, right? We were talking about, okay, maybe Christmas, like the Christmas break, reset everything, turn the page. Mental fatigue hopefully goes away, physical fatigue maybe a little bit too. And maybe this Buffalo game, like if you're the Bruins, you're like, it's just a one-off. It wasn't our night. We had some stuff stacked against us, like you said, Scott. I think obviously you said you didn't like the comments. Like, yes, I think that in a way, like, it does sound a little bit of excuse making, but now that it's behind you, you kind of have to be like, that wasn't us. We're gonna, like, you have to put it back and be like, that kind of explain to yourself, like, we don't need to lose confidence because of this thing.
But I mean, like, it's been them for 2 weeks now.
It's been them in ways all year, to the point I was making off the top of the show. Like, they've been giving up a lot of chances all year, but it's been masked by strong special teams. The penalty kill has gone from a top 10 PK unit to a bottom third over the last 3 weeks. And the goaltending it's been inconsistent from Swayman, fair to say. And it's been below average consistently from Korpisalo. So, I think you look back at the recent stretch of games, and yes, you can make the argument that the Bruins have caught some teams at bad times for the Bruins, right? Like you catch Minnesota when they're playing some of the best hockey in the league for the last month plus. They get the Quinn Hughes bump, right? And then you have to go back to Boston and get the other side of the Quinn Hughes bump, which is when a team is feeling good just because, their backs are against the wall, everybody's shitting on them. Vancouver had some stuff to prove. And you get Vancouver right when they trade Quinn Hughes when they're in the middle of a small win streak. So, you can mention those things. You can mention how they caught Buffalo when Buffalo's playing their best hockey in probably a decade. But here's the thing. There's a quote from the Titanic. I think it's what's the villain's name? Cal Hockley or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
There's a quote he says, a real man makes his own luck. A good team makes their own luck, right? Like a bad team makes excuses. And, if you're the Bruins, like you can't be, oh man, well, we caught Minnesota when they just got Quinn Hughes, or we caught Vancouver when they were in a small. That's a loser's mentality. It's excuse making. I to be honest with you guys, I feel like the Bruins have been vastly outplayed in 4 of their last 6 games. I think they were vastly outplayed against Buffalo. Thought they were outplayed 2 out of the 3 periods against Montreal. Thought they were outplayed by Ottawa soundly. I thought they outplayed Vancouver. But whatever, you lose. And then Edmonton, I'm not going to say they outplayed Edmonton. I think they were probably with them, right, for the most part. But it's not been good enough. It's not been good enough. And what concerns me is you go out against Montreal, right, and it's a must-win game. Everybody talks about it's a must-win game. And you know what? The Bruins were ready to play that game. Tanner Jeannot drops the gloves off the face-off. Nikita Zadorov drops the gloves not too long afterwards. Of course, we talked about the Hampus Lindholm stupid penalty, but the Bruins as a team, they were up for that game. And it kind of feels like they used a lot of bullets there in a losing 6-2 effort, and then you got to go into the holiday. So it feels like the Bruins haven't been losing because they don't want to win. They don't have it. They don't have the speed and skill consistently that other teams do. It's evident. I mean, Buffalo looked so much faster and way more skilled with the puck than Boston. Now, I think Boston sucked. I think it was one of their worst games of the year. When Boston looks bad, they look bad, and they make other teams look like the Globetrotters. But still, it's like, I don't know. It's evident right now.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention too, it's not like it's been such a streaky season. It's like when they're down, they're down. Like when they start off the season 3 wins in a row, then they lose 6 in a row, then they win 8 of 9. And then there's one stretch in November where they do actually kind of go win-loss, like back and forth a little bit, but then they hit a 4-game win streak and now a 5-game losing streak. It's like it's been streak. When they're high, the confidence is there. And then when they're low, it's like you see, even just in the mannerisms and the conversations after the game, like they snowball a little bit, like both ways. And I don't know what the solution is there. I mean, that's probably a coaching thing, right? Like when they went on that 6-game losing streak in October, and then they came back and started winning, we were giving Sturm a lot of credit. Like he was saying a lot of the right things. It seemed like he was pushing the right buttons. Some of the personnel moves that he had made, like some healthy scratching certain guys, and then they come back playing better. Call-ups, like Alex Steves starts playing better. Aspero. And now it's like, well, what's the next button to push to get them out of this 5-game losing streak?
By the way,
is it a call-up? Is it personnel, or is it just like we have what we have? We just need to do better. Like it could be as simple as that. I mean,
and I'll say it again, Aspero being out. I'm not gonna say it's not a coincidence. I mean, I know nobody knew who he was before the year. He was a journeyman mid-20s AHL lifer, and we noticed him a bit in training camp. He had some pop to his game, but it's confusing that a third pair defenseman depth guy can have that much of an impact when the Bruins the Bruins have gone major stretches this year without Hampus Lindholm and Charlie McAvoy. And they have not looked as bad and discombobulated on the back end as when they've been without Jonathan Aspro. Tell me how that makes sense, but I'm looking at what I'm looking at. At least when Lindholm was out of the lineup and they had a losing record, at least they were in games, right? Like they were finding ways to lose. I feel worse about this stretch of games because, like I said, 5 of their last 6 losses have been multiple goal defeats. 6-2, 6-2, 4-1. It's come on. Don't tell me you're so vulnerable that Jonathan Aspro, who I love, I've been on his bandwagon the last 2 months, that he makes that much of a difference. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, like one thing he does do is, and Sturm's talked about this, we've talked about, is like he closes on plays quickly, like he can help kill plays. That's been a problem because, especially in this Buffalo game, where the Bruins are just spending way too much time in their own zone. Like they can't kill plays. They're also not spending, and these two go hand in hand. They're not spending nearly enough time in the offensive zone. They haven't been able to establish their forecheck or any kind of cycle game now in a little bit. Like we think back to earlier this season and how effective they'd be on the forecheck and how guys like, now we haven't even mentioned Tanner Jeannot. He was out Saturday. He's banged up. We don't know if he has a chance to come back at some point during this road trip or, if it's a little longer term. But guys like him, Kastelik, Steves, Huznadinov, even like Asimov, like, forcing plays on the forecheck, forcing turnovers, and like that hasn't been happening. In fact, in this game, you have Morgan Geekie has the puck behind the net in the offensive zone. Defender closes on him, lands a hard hit. He turns it over. Hampus Lindholm pinches down to try to keep the play alive, but instead just pokes it right to Sabres defenseman to start, what essentially turns into like a 5-on-3 fast break, because by this point, Pastrnak now has also been caught up the ice and was like wheeling around the net. So Pastrnak and Geekie are the two guys furthest up ice as Buffalo starts coming back the other way, and that's when Buffalo scores their first goal to tie it. And like on the backside of that, it's, Andrew Peeke goes down for a shot block, but I think really just ends up screening Korpisalo instead, doesn't get the block. Korpisalo reacted as if he was screened. Like I don't think he saw that shot the whole way. But then like the next 2 goals for Buffalo, when they really take the game over in that second period, are just off long offensive zone cycles. Bruins, struggle to get pucks out. Like that's an ongoing problem, right? On the first one, Alex Steves has a turnover in the zone where he kind of just whiffs on a pass, not strong enough or not focused enough. On the third, Huznadinov had a turnover in the buildup. And then Hampus Lindholm misplayed a puck behind the net. And like, so you end up chasing the play. You end up, trying to defend. Buffalo's cycling all around. And eventually you're just bound to make a mistake when, like, I don't care how good your system is. Obviously you want it to be able to hold for a while, but like eventually you're going to make a mistake. On the second goal, ends up being a Tage Thompson shot from out high. Peyton Krebs has a free stick in front and gets the tip. On the third one, Hampus Lindholm and Andrew Peeke end up in the same place at the net front. Again, because they're scrambling. I think it's Jack Quinn comes out from behind the net. Murat Huznadinov sees that, 2 guys have gone to the net front. No one's on Quinn. He leaves his guy to go try to get to Quinn, basically make up for someone else's mistake. Well, in the process, now Matthias Samuelsson is wide open right behind him because Huznadinov left him alone, and Samuelsson ends up being the goal scorer. And it's like, yeah, that's why possession matters and zone time matters, because any team that has to spend as much time in their own end as the Bruins are right now, your system is just bound to, like, someone's going to make a mistake. Someone's going to get beat in man coverage. Something's going to happen where your opponent's going to end up with the quality scoring chance and maybe a goal.
Something else that's been bothering me about this Bruins team too is their inability to take advantage of a team when they're without one of their best players, if not their best player. I mean, they played Ottawa 3 times this year without Brady Tkachuk, and they lost 2 of them. And then they obviously lost against Ottawa with Brady Tkachuk more recently. You lose to the Canucks, who just traded away Quinn Hughes and who were without Elias Pettersson. You lose that game. I don't care that the shots were what they were for Boston. They found a way to lose that game.
I think they were last place at the time they played too. Like Vancouver was in last place.
And then obviously more recently, Rasmus Dahlin's not even in the lineup for Buffalo. And they're still skating circles around you guys. Like I know that's a sign of a bad team, right? Like that's a sign of a bad team when you're getting outplayed when teams are without some of their top players. But it's just
also like relating to that too. Now I don't have the numbers to back this up, but like anecdotally, it feels like they've lost to a lot of backup goalies. Because I think teams have thrown backup goalies out against the Bruins quite a bit. So like on Saturday, Bruins go with Korpisalo, which I get. Look, Swayman getting an extended break, I think was kind of needed, right? He had clearly worn down. But I also I don't love that this game, like this first game after Christmas break, where you have to do the day of game travel. And this is like around the league. It just seems like this automatically is a backup goalie game. And I'm like, don't you kind of want to lean on your number one guy? Like, if you know this is going to be a tougher game for the team and it's a tough situation, I don't know. Don't you think about turning to your number one and say like, hey, go get us one. But anyways, Bruins use their backup. So did the Sabres. Like Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen has become their backup to Alex Lyon, who has been their better goalie this season. So you're facing him too, and you barely even test him.
And when's the last time that the Bruins top players have truly put their stamp on a game and just been wow, like they really took the game over? I mean, again, and I know it's easy to say amidst a losing streak, but the reality is they're in a losing streak. So, I mean, what do you want me to say? Their top players have been outplayed by the opposing team's top players every night. And I know the game against the Oilers, it was mentioned that McDavid and Draisaitl didn't do much at it. Honestly did less at even strength in terms of shot generation than the Bruins top players, but they still found a way to come through in special teams. But I mean, again, the Ottawa game. Ottawa's top 6 just ragdolled the Bruins top 6. Montreal's top 6 left their stamp on that game. I know the game got away from the Bruins later on, and I know that the Lindholm goal should have been a 3-2 lead for the Bruins heading to the third. It changes things, but it could have, should have, would have, right? The Vancouver game, it just, again, they didn't do much. Certainly not against Buffalo, like Thompson and Nor. I mean, they all just. I know Pastrnak scores, and it's a nice. What feels like the first 5-on-5 goal for Pastrnak and that trio in a long time. They don't really. Maybe I'm wrong about this because I don't have the numbers to back it up. But their 5-on-5 play is not great.
It was Pasternak's first 5-on-5 goal since November 13th.
Which there's an injury in between that, but it's still I think it was 15 full games for him prior to the last game's goal. But that line, right? Geeky, Lindholm, Pastrnak. I don't see it from them. 5-on-5. I really don't. They have their moments. You're gonna have your moments with Pastrnak on your line and Geeky the way he's been playing the last year. But are they hemming teams in? Are they getting teams on their heels? I don't think so. And, that was one of my frustrations against the Sabres was watching I know they scored. So it's like, whatever, but they didn't seem to be doing all that much. And neither of the lines did. And it just felt like it took Sturm too long to make a change. And that leads me to a point I wanted to make about the practice lines. The day afterwards in Buffalo, which might
Brian,
be
just before you get to that, just to put some numbers on it.
Please.
So you're right. They did score at 5-on-5. They also got scored on. And shots on goal at 5-on-5 when that line was on the ice, 10-3 Buffalo for the game.
Scott, what is that? At some point in this episode, or maybe next episode if we run out of time, can we try to find that line's, shots for versus shots against or whatever? I just feel like, the biggest elephant in the room here, which we haven't really said out loud, but we've kind of talked about it here and there, and it's kind of known. Elias Lindholm is not an even strength play driver. He's a great center. He's a great face-off man, and he's defensively a reliable player. And there's times where he takes advantage of an opportunity 5-on-5, but most of his production and generation has been on the power play, which is great. You need that too. But he's not this 5-on-5 number one center. He's just not. And I don't know. I don't know. Like, I'd like to see numbers from those three players.
Well, want it right now?
Please. Thank you so much.
So that line has played 175 minutes together at 5-on-5. Shots on goal are actually dead even, 81-81, but they've been outscored 11-8. So outscored your top line, a line that was dominant down the stretch last season, was the only good thing you had. They've been outscored in the season, and expected goals 44.8%. So like that's not even fluky. Like that's again based on expected goals, which takes in like quality of chances and all that. Like that's exactly what it would be. Like that's a line that is getting outscored, outchanced, and would be expected to be outscored based on their play.
And it's a line that has Morgan Geekie, who, say what you want about his shooting percentage being high. I'm not going to dispute that, right? It's subjectively a great shooting percentage. But you have Morgan Geekie on a line who has been the leading scorer in the NHL over the last calendar year. And you have David Pastrnak, who has been habitually one of the top 3, 4, 5 goal scorers in the world for the last decade. So you have those two players on a line, and yet you're getting outscored. I mean, and your shot generation is dead even. To me, it's like, that's clearly not, something's off there, right? That's something's off there. So the Bruins' most recent practice lines had Alex Steeves on the left, Elias Lindholm center, Morgan Geekie on the right. Then it had Middlestat on the left, Zaka the middle, Arvidsson on the right. Which, by the way, that line, I don't know, maybe a little bit of a pass there. They could be much better in my opinion too. Husendinov on the left, center with Mitten center, Pastrnak on the right. So they've gone back to that Pastrnak, Mitten, Husendinov trio, which has been good in times where they've been together. And then fourth line is Easymont, Corrali, Kaslik, VLZ, extra forward. As Scott mentioned earlier, is hurt. So Sturm's mixing things up, heading out west, at least according to these practice lines. And we'll see how they fare, because my biggest gripe with that Lindholm, Geekie, Pastrnak line, we've talked about it. Bridget's been a huge proponent of this. Is not enough dogs, not enough puck hunters there. And so what they're doing is they're giving them Steeves, which was a good combination when Pastrnak was out. Steeves, Lindholm, Geekie, they were playing well. We talked about maybe keeping them together. And then Husendinov and Minton, they do some damage in the corners for Pastrnak. So we'll see how it works out for them.
Yeah, and I also wanted to mention, just because we were talking about Aspro earlier, him and Yoki Haru are still like, they're practicing, but they're still like not in the top 6. They're like the extra pair in these listings. So but there's a chance that one of them might get in on this road trip. Still waiting on an update for those guys, but I mean, at least they're trending in the right direction. They traveled and they've practiced, but still waiting on them to fully come back. And yeah, I did want to mention too, guys, like with the Korpisalo thing, maybe I just wasn't thinking of it the same way, but like I was surprised not to see Swayman out of the break, just because it was like they had obviously they had potentially overused him, but I thought like, okay, now he has had some rest, and a few days off in a row, go back to him, just because we talked about how Korpisalo had been playing, and it seemed like they've kind of moved over to amping up Swayman's playing time because they don't feel like they can trust him as much. And I don't know if my opinion changed about that in the Buffalo game. There were times where he makes really nice looking saves, but some goalie coaches will tell you those ones are because if they were in position, it wouldn't have looked very flashy. But then there were also the goals that he did give up. It's like you kind of need to save on a few of those that he had a chance on. So I know we had a conversation before the break about what is it time to consider doing something with him. I think DiPietro did just come back from injury. Is he back now? I think he was trending towards that.
I don't think he's played yet. I don't know if
So
he's back on the ice.
I think he's close to playing again down in Providence, but yeah, it's also funny. I know this doesn't mean anything at all, but because I was looking for their win streaks and their losing streaks, I pulled up the ESPN, like the way that they list all of like the scores. It's easier to just kind of like do the quick math on the streaks. And I didn't realize they also have a thing like that says who the top performer each game was, and they had Korpisalo as the Bruins' top performer last night.
I mean,
well, nobody else is any good. I mean,
yeah,
truly.
I guess I had not given any thought to like who even maybe would qualify for that. I don't put. I think I've been as critical of Korpisalo as anyone. I really don't put Saturday on him much at all. Like
Yeah.
I thought he was screened on 2 of the goals, and the other one gets tipped right in front of him. Like
the tip
maybe you want him to fight through the screens more, and get a better view, but. I don't know. I think there were significant breakdowns defensively on all 3.
And tip goals, you normally like the goalies tend to not have much of a chance on those. Like those are hard.
He also had a couple of key saves where if the Bruins find a way to bury one shortly thereafter, and like you're looking back at it and being like that was a big stop from Korpisalo to keep him in the game and help the Bruins come back and win. But the Bruins just didn't. I mean, he had a couple of point blank saves, one on Thompson, who kind of like toe dragged around. Like he had some saves, and I'm not saying Korpisalo has been good this year, and I'm not saying that you can't find a way to move on. But I'm just saying that game in a nutshell, it's like they just they more or less no showed again. Like go back. Actually, you know what? I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. What I was gonna say was go back and rewatch that game and tell me that the team that played in the final 5 minutes wearing black and yellow was the same team that you saw throughout the first 55. It just wasn't the case. It wasn't the case. They chose. They made a choice. We're down 2. We got no time left. It's now or never. Where's that mentality at the drop of the puck? Your season's been on the line, I think, in the last couple of weeks. So, I don't know.
Yeah, one other thing I want to mention on the practice lines, or I guess more specifically the practice pairings from Sunday. So the Bruins stayed in Buffalo overnight, practiced there Sunday morning, and then flew out to Calgary where they'll have a morning skate before Monday night's game. But the D pairings in practice they remain the same as they've been. Zadorov, McAvoy, Lindholm, Peak, Kolyachonok, Lohrei. I just still think I think it's long. It remains long overdue to split up Lindholm and Peak, and I feel like Sturm is just waiting for Aspro to come back to try. He tried him very briefly with Lindholm right before Aspro got hurt. I think he's probably going to try that again. But in the meantime, I would try something else now. And I've kind of been pushing this for a while, but I would try Lindholm and McAvoy together and put Zadorov and Peak together. Zadorov and McAvoy obviously have been good together most of the season, but not recently. And certainly not in this last game. They got crushed in this game. The Bruins got outshot 13-3 when they were on the ice, and they were out there for one of the goals. So to me, it kind of feels like this would be the perfect opportunity to sort of shake everything up on the back end, because it really hasn't been working. And that Lindholm Peak pair has not been working all season. I know I've given out the numbers before, but I mean, it's been the Bruins' most used pair this season by almost 100 minutes. And the Bruins have been outscored 19-8 with them on the ice. I don't know why this pairing needs to stay together.
It's a fair point, Scott. I mean, I think in part because of a lack of options with all the injuries and stuff like that. And, don't know. I just don't. I'm with you. I don't see it. And as far as McAvoy Zadorov, like Zadorov looked like he was skating in quicksand last game, and I know he's a bigger dude, but he's pretty mobile for his size, and he looked like early. He looked like first half of the season Zadorov last year. Like he looked unsure of himself. He was just chasing the play. He's not. That's not who he's been the last calendar year. I'd say for the Bruins, he's been more on top of pucks and players, and he just looked slow. He was chasing the game, and McAvoy just looked like he was. I don't know, like he was getting his pocket picked, like he wasn't unaware of back pressure at the offensive blue, just looking like an average, like looking like a, just not looking like a top 20 defenseman, even nowhere close, like nowhere close. Nowhere close. So I don't know what it was. I don't know if the guys had too much spiked eggnog over the holiday. I don't know what the case was, but it just wasn't good enough. And I know the Bruins lack speed and skill compared to most, if not all, playoff teams, and certainly the better teams in the league. But they still they're all still professional athletes, right? Like these guys are all still the best in the world at what they do. And the Bruins roster in particular has certain individuals that are capable of a hell of a lot more than what they're showing. So, again, it's up to them. Like they have how many games left? 40 games, 41 games left, whatever it is. It's like,
so this will be number 40 coming up in Calgary, because I was looking in the New Year's Eve in Edmonton lines up perfectly. Like they get through half the schedule just as the calendar flips to 2026.
So it's up to them. You guys get half a schedule left. How do you want this season to go? Like, this can be a painfully long 41 games for them, or it can be a fun, competitive 41 where they're on the playoff hunt. And yeah, like it's up to them.
One point I want to make just quickly in the standings, because I know we want to get to a couple international things to follow up on Bridget's lead a little bit, but in the standings, like we've been saying for a while, it's like everyone's still so bunched together. Well, there has been some separation starting to grow in the Atlantic Division, where now you actually have Detroit on top at 49 points, Tampa 47, Montreal 46, and then like a 4-point gap down to Florida and Buffalo isn't huge, but it's a bigger gap than we've seen so far. And now, like if you're looking at it from the Bruins perspective, you're at 41 points. It's like now you're 5 points out of being above the wild card fray, right? Like you're 5 points out of those 1, 2, 3 spots in your division. So and you still you've played, so you actually have a game in hand on Detroit, but you've played a game more than Tampa and Montreal. So now, like even in the standings, you are actually starting to kind of slip into like a lower tier than the top 3 teams in your division.
Mm-hmm. Bridget, what do you got for us, kid?
All right. So because the NHL has been watching a lot of international hockey. First of all, this is about the Olympics, and then I'll go back to Spengler Cup and World Juniors. I believe the Olympic rosters are due on New Year's Eve. Mm-hmm. So that's just 2 days from now. So that's the deadline to submit the rosters. We'll find out, what each team looks like, I guess, officially, in 2 days, which, and don't blink now.
I think they're
like, it's around the corner. The Olympics are almost here.
Yeah, I think they're holding like their official announcements. Like I know they're announcing the US team during the Winter Classic on Friday. So, we'll have to react to that next week, but maybe it gets leaked before then. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
How's that rink looking?
What?
Anybody know how the rink's looking?
Oh,
it's fine. Don't even worry about it. It's going to be wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's exciting. That's coming soon. And then I don't know if you guys have watched any of the Spengler Cup, but I more so don't even want to talk about what's happened like with the games. Though the college kids, they did just beat Davos, like the home team. So I was wondering how college kids would look against pros from European leagues. It's like, all right, well, they beat the best team in the Swiss league. But anyway, what I really wanted to mention was they have the refs mic'd up and on camera while they are going over the calls, while they're going through the reviews. So they'll have like a split screen. On one screen, on like one side, it's what they're looking at. On the other side, it's their faces, and you can hear them talking about why they're going to call a goal back, or what made it. Like there was a goalie interference goal review that they did in the first game, and it was just interesting to hear. It was way more transparent, I guess I'll put it that way. You can go back if you're whatever coach and listen to what they said on it, and you might have a gripe, you might think they got it right. It's just different. That would never happen here. Never ever are they miking up a ref while they're talking through. I would love that. Change that, do that, but I know that would never happen in the NHL.
That'd be
they
great.
had hot mics everywhere. Like they were picking up F-bombs and this is holy shit. And like they were just picking up everything off the bench. Like it was crazy. I think that the entire thing was a hot mic. Even the broadcasters had hot mics like during what they thought were like commercial breaks. I could still hear them, but which is a broadcaster's nightmare, by the way.
I can picture Paul Maurice right now at a Panthers game being caught saying, "Oh, fuck right off, fuck right off."
That's like what I was like. Did they not have the FC? I mean, I know they don't have the FCC. They just don't have an equivalent over there. They don't care. Like literally, they're picking up every conversation, which around here, people do not want you to listen in on their game planning, their anything on the bench, anything in the locker room is private and not accessible. There, no mics, no cameras. They literally had a camera in the locker room in between periods. It will show, and like there was they caught like people swearing and screaming. Like it was nuts.
The thing is it was always really good and respectful when it was just the Swiss league, and then the damn Americans came over, and now they're like, what are all these F-bombs? We weren't expecting
like
that.
The intermission, they're like getting chewed out because they need to play better, and it's like it's all being broadcast. Like, do they know that this is being live streamed to YouTube right now? Because we're all watching it.
Bridget, I have caught some of it. I gotta be honest. I don't know. I can barely tell who's who. The uniforms, I don't know like
it's
what team is what team. They truly are, because the US team doesn't have any distinction. Like they wear a white uniform with a bunch of blue ads and a blue uniform with a bunch of white ads. But so does like a couple other teams. Like Canada's red, so I know that that's not the US. And then I don't know. It's just hard to tell who's who, to be honest.
Yeah, they don't have like emblem. Like the emblem is like they all have those like 4 like hockey stick looking things as a shield. And yes, but don't make fun of it because I do have one.
No, I know. I just
the blue ones are better than the white ones. The white ones are.
But what's the is that a thing? Like, is that what they do every year? Like, what's the reasoning behind it? Is it more European? Like, is it just more authentically European? I don't know.
Everything about this tournament feels like it's so much closer to like European hockey culture than.
What a cool rink, huh?
The rink is awesome. It's like a massive barn. Like it's like that's how I would describe it. It's not like an arena. It's not like TD Garden at all. It's more like what's the rink called in Vermont?
Gutterson.
It's like a big, like times that by like 5, like just like blow it up bigger, and it's got like these really cool like high ceilings and they look wood, and I don't know, and it was packed. I was surprised. Like one of our listeners, Skip, is from Switzerland, and he told us like it's a big deal there, and it was packed. So I guess that's accurate. It drew really well. Even for the Canada-US game, which obviously those aren't the European teams. So it's been good. I know that Steve Metcalf, who put it together, is very happy with the product, and I know the guys are enjoying it there. So it's been just a little extra bonus hockey, and interesting to kind of get a peek into the European side of what things are like over there.
Yeah. Semifinal appearance for the U.S. college selects.
Yeah.
Which is what it was like but to my knowledge, they lost to Canada. U.S. beat Davos. Davos beat Canada. So was it just a 3-game round robin and then like it goes on like goal differential or something? Because all teams were 1-1, unless there was a 4th team in that. But I know that if Davos beat Canada by like more than 1 goal, but under 5 goals, like that, the U.S. would make the semifinals, which they did because Davos won 4-1. So I'm not really sure how the bracketing works, but either way, U.S. is in the semifinals.
Yeah, I'm still unclear too because it's been difficult to find sometimes. But yeah, I think they're in what's it called? A group. There's so there was 4 teams in one group, 4 teams in the other group. So
Okay, so there was a 4th team. I'm blanking on who it was then. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought they only played 3 games though. Or 2 games, the US. Didn't the US only play Canada and Davos? Did they play a 3rd game?
No, they've only played 2.
Hmm.
The other team in their group was Prague. So a team from Prague.
Yeah, I guess I just don't know how it works, but glad they advanced.
I've just been enjoying what I can and not fully understanding it this entire time, but just being like, all right, well, I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah. Scott, any final thoughts?
No, I've not been able to really follow the Spengler Cup at all. I got, between Bruins, World Juniors, and then Patriots stuff yesterday. Haven't had the room for it. And also movies. I got to catch up on like all the end of year movies.
Yeah.
Get
Things.
Get my top 20 movies of the year out.
Yeah. Yeah, and as Bridget just mentioned, you got to catch up on Stranger Things because you got the finale on New Year's Eve, which I know you'll be caught up by then. So,
I was thinking on like New Year's Day, I'm gonna have some time to kill in the city, like after I'm on the radio. And I was like, should I just go to the finale and just like not being caught up at all, just to get that theater experience?
You watch like a season?
That's a psychotic move.
I've watched like 2.5 seasons.
That would be that would be like a Game of Thrones fan seeing Ned Stark get.
Don't. I'm just kidding. Years later.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah. That'll be like watching the ending of Game of Thrones season 1 and then not seeing anything until the finale and going to the theaters, and that's insane. That's psychotic behavior, Scott. Don't do that. Well, anyway, so to our listeners, enjoy Bruins Flames. Hopefully the Bruins can start to, well, it depends who you ask. There's Bruins fans that obviously want the Bruins to lose. So whatever you want to have happen, just enjoy the game. And enjoy your New Year's. Have a safe, happy New Year's with family, friends. And we'll be on.
We're gonna be on again before New Year's. We'll be recording.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's
New Year's Eve morning.
That's right. All right. Well, then I take it back, everybody. I take it all back. I'll say it again on Wednesday. Forget everything that I just said.
Yeah, have a miserable next 2 days. Then we'll wish you a happy New Year.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you all very much for listening. We'll talk to you Wednesday. Hey guys, thanks for watching this Skate Podcast. If you want to see more of our videos, visit our playlist.
Not in front of a screen? You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment.